Um, just to make sure that everybody's benefiting from today's session, I'm going to speak in English. But if you have questions and you're more comfortable in Farsi, you can ask it in Farsi. I'll try to answer, or you can also type in Farsi in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Dariush, I want to share my screen. I hope I can do that.
Yes, I think you can do it.
Okay, let me try. Okay. Cool. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and I hope you have had a very good week so far. My name is Amir, and I'm going to talk about two topics today. One topic is going to be about this PMP course that Dariush was suggesting to put, and then the other one is going to be about the supply chain management course that we are offering through a collaboration with Synovate, and that will follow this. First, let's talk about a Pmp exam. I'll start with a little bit of like introducing myself. My name is Amir Harandi, and I have PhD in strategic management, MBA, PMP. I have my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Isfahan University of Technology. I guess some of the audience here are my old classmates from same university. So, I'm now teaching at Yorkville University and Sheridan College here in Canada. I have like 22 years of teaching experience and also industry experience. It's mostly been like part-time teaching, part-time university. Now I'm most of my time is being spent on managing my company, Art in Tech, which is a technology company here in Toronto. But I still take some classes from university and college. Okay, so what we are going to talk about today, it's project management. What is project management for the friends who are still trying to figure out if this is a right course for them and if this is the right certificate for them. So we are going to talk a little bit about that. Why project management? Why not, let's say, project controller? Then what is PMP? We're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to have a closer look, some sample taste of what PMP offers, and we will also talk about what are the best ways to prepare for exam, because there are lots of advertisings around it and lots of things being offered in the market. So we're going to take a look at that as well. And then what are the changes? We have had two major changes this year, and we are going to see what are these two important changes that PMI has offered. So let's start by looking at this slide. There are number of questions. First of all, what are the things that we call project, and what if I have a PMP? Am I going to have a better opportunity to find a work in a construction company or a factory, for example, right? And how do you distinguish project from other things? Basically, things that are repetitive and you do the same thing on and on every day, they are not called projects. They're called processes, right? For example, or operation. Better than process, the better word for that would be operations. For example, you have car manufacturing. So in a car manufacturing, there are two types of works that are being done. One type is to produce the car parts. And if I take a photo today and I take a photo tomorrow, it would be very difficult to say which photo was earlier. So this is a repetitive everyday work, and we call it an operation, right? But in the same manufacturing company, you can see that some people are designing new cars. So that is not a repetitive work. They start this project of designing a new car, and they finish this work. And every time they design a new car, the outcome is something new and unique. So we call this project. So if you're looking for the works that are, for the jobs that are in the production line, that deal with day-to-day operation of the operation line, that is not project. But if you're looking for things like construction projects, IT projects, designing new works, research projects, these are all projects because they have a start time, they have a finish time, and every time you're creating something different from the previous time. So this is what we call project. And I wanted to make it clear here because some people don't have passion in these kind of lines. They more prefer to work on the manufacturing lines. Even in the manufacturing lines, every now and then we have like quality improvement projects, right? Those are again projects. But the work of manufacturing itself is an operation. So we don't call it project, which again has a huge different line of learning and certificates and other things. But when we are talking about project, I wanted to be clear what we are talking about. And then what is project management? Obviously, is managing these projects, right? But what I can say is that the biggest job of project manager is to make sure everybody else in the project are doing their work properly. And most of this comes from interpersonal and human skills. Yes, in Pmp exam, we have lots of like calculations and formulas and models and methods. But in reality, when you start the work, then what counts is your human relations. What counts is even your network. I've seen many project managers are being hired, top level project managers in Canada. They've been hired because they have a good team, and they take the team together with them to the companies that they move to. So human skills are huge. If you cannot show your interpersonal skills, communication skills, negotiation skills, let's say conflict resolution skills, leadership skills, teamwork skills, these are the skills that make you a real project manager, not really even the PMP certificate. PMP certificate is just the beginning. But if you don't have passion for those kind of skills and you prefer to work alone and nobody's around you, project management is not what you're looking for. However, if you're looking for a dynamic work in which you can offer your interpersonal skills and lead other people, if you're one of those people who are in love with the leadership concept, project management is probably one of the things that you want to try. And project managers we always say a project manager is like a mini CEO himself or herself, because project managers are in touch with clients, are in touch with the staff, are in touch with colleagues, and they have to deal with all kind of organizational concerns. So project management is sort of like practicing to become the CEO of the company. Now, project management has two famous standards. One standard is in North America, mostly practiced in North America and many parts of the world, is that comes from PMI, Project Management Institute, which is very, very common in many parts of the world. But this is not the only standard. There's another standard more famous in Europe. Let's say if you want to work in government in UK, you have to have that one. which is Prince standard. So these are two different standards for project management, and more or less wherever you work all around the world, you're either following this one or that one. In North America, especially in Canada and US, we usually are looking for PMI standard, which is called Pmbok, Project Management Body of Knowledge. And this is a standard book. It's now around like 700 pages. Of course, a part of that book is the standard. The rest of the book is explaining the standard. But in North America, if you want to work as a project manager, probably one of the things that they want is your certificate, which comes from Pmbok, Project Management Body of Knowledge. There could be a couple of certificates, but the PMP is probably the most important one. And unless you're working for a European company that operates in the United States or in Canada, so that could change the story, and they might ask you to have Prince certificate, Prince 1, Prince 2, other certificates. So PMP, Project Management Professional, is a certificate that you take, and then that is based on Project Management Body of Knowledge from PMI Institute. But again, I want to emphasize that this is not the only certificate that comes from Pmbok. For example, CAMP and other certificates also come from the same thing. But most of the people usually look for PMP when they're looking into serious jobs. Now, when you're working in projects, you're not necessarily always project manager, especially when you join a new organization and it's the early days of your project work. Usually people get promoted to project controller or project assistant or project management manager assistant, or like junior controller and senior controller. So I did a bit of research a couple of years ago, and I'm bringing this slide again. It's a little bit old, maybe like 2-3 years ago, but still relevant. You see, when you move from project coordinator role to project manager role, this is how the salaries change. This is the statistics from Toronto, I believe. And you can see that the median for the salary moves from $55,000 to $82,000, almost $30,000 improved. And the same with median total compensation. Again, from 55, it moves to $85,000. So we have a shift of like $30,000 a year. But what is probably more important is that for project coordinator, the cap of the salary is something around $75,000, whereas for project management, that shifts to $114,000. And I know project managers that get like more than $150,000 easily per year. So you're looking into shifting from one level of salary to another level of salary, and the change is quite significant in the market. Now, let's focus a little bit about on Pmp exam. To do the Pmp exam, first you have to register online, and I always joke with my students, my friends, I say the best way to make sure you're successful in Pmp exam is to register for it. Because I have seen people who kind of drag and then they keep studying and not registering, and then it takes a couple of years and then they forget about it, right? So the best way is to make sure as soon as you have a bit of understanding about the overall process, register for it. And especially this year, PMI is offering online registration and online exam, so you don't even have to be worried about I don't know, exam center being available or not. So that removes that barrier as well. So registration is the first step. Then when you register, a a small number, maybe like 5 to 10% of the people get audited, which means some of your credentials, some of the work, especially work experiences, could be in question, or they want to just randomly check. And you have to make sure that when you're registering, the references that you introduce for the past work experience are people who you can access and you can trust. Because if you are audited, then they're going to ask them, those people who you said those are your references in the workplace, those are the people who should prove or should approve that you have worked on those locations, on those projects. So if they cannot find them, or if they do not respond, or if they say, no, I don't know this person, then you would be in trouble. So make sure when you're registering, anywhere that you need to input a name, that name is a person that you can easily access. It doesn't need to be the CEO of the company that you worked in, but it needs to be somebody that you can easily access. The other thing that is important is that when you are registering based on your degree, if you're diploma, if you're high school graduate, or if you are bachelor's degree, if you have bachelor's degree and above, like after bachelor, it doesn't matter, master, PhD, they're all the same. You need to prove that you have worked for a certain number of years. You can check that online on PMI website. But let's say if you have if you have bachelor's degree, you have to provide that in the past 8 years. Sometimes they say 10 years, but I believe the 8 years is the more accurate one. In the past 8 years, you have worked something around a couple of years at least on project area, and hopefully as a project lead. But even if you have not worked as a project lead or as a project coordinator, project controller, or project manager, again, you can, as long as you have worked in the project environment, you can submit your work experiences. So some people say, no, you have to have work experience as a project lead or project manager. No. As long as you have worked as project in project area, you can submit your project work. Later in class, I will explain a little bit more, but just a heads up here, if in case some of you will not join the class. And once you have your registration done, then you'll become a member in PMI. I believe it's you have your PMP will be valid for 3 years, and then after that, if you have not done anything about it, then you have to take the exam again. But there's tons of seminars and webinars and volunteer works and I know trainings that every time you attend any of those, you'll earn some credits. They call it PDUs, and then you accumulate them, and you can go and check online if you need more. And if you have enough PDUs, if you have attended enough seminars and trainings, then it will be renewed for you automatically. Then now the PMP exam itself used to be 2 hours. It's now a little bit different, just a bit different in the new changes, but almost 2 hours and close to 200 questions. Again, it has changed this year a little bit, but it's still almost the same. And and it's mainly multiple choice questions and multiple answer questions. Sometimes you have to choose only one answer, sometimes multiple answers. Very limited, like fill in the blank kind of questions, but there are no essay questions. Still, as long as I know, there are no essay questions. You just and the reason is that they want to be able to give your answers without putting somebody to mark your questions, and that the machine should automatically be able to identify your question. Sorry, mark your paper. And as soon as you finish the exam, the system will tell you if you have earned the PMP or not. So you don't have to wait for them to call you and congratulate you. You'll know right away. Now, what are the feedback questions? Some of the questions in the PMP exam are not really marked. There are a small number of questions like that, but there's some questions that they just put it there to work statistically to see if these are good questions for future exams. So a small number of the questions in your exam could be like weird questions or new questions. This could be because these are the questions that they're preparing for the future exams, and they just want to collect statistics about how many people can answer them, what is the standard deviation from their normal, and these kind of things. And the other question is, what is the pass rate? How many questions should I answer correctly? This is something like Coca-Cola's formula. They usually do not reveal it to anybody. But it is safe to say that if you have answered around like 75–80% of the questions, you should probably pass the exam. Okay, now, do you have any questions up to here before we move to the next part, where I'm going to explain a little bit about the PMP, the Pmbok structure itself, and to show you what are the things that you're expecting? No questions? Okay, good. Now, when you start studying for Pmbok 6, I'm talking about Pmbok 6 because this year Pmbok 7 will be published, which is totally different. But for Pmbok 6, I would say the main page in the whole book, 700 pages of book, the main page is the page in which you have a table like this. Now, this table, Darish, I want to make sure everybody can see this table. Is it visible for everybody, the table I'm putting up here?
Yes.
Okay. So
can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, I will zoom in different parts. I just want to show you the structure of the table for here. Now, if you look at this table has like five columns and 10 rows. Each column represents a group of processes, and each row represents a knowledge area. So what are these? To look at the top part of the table header of this table, I have zoomed it here. So it tells you the process groups that you need to be aware of in a project. So basically here, if I go back to the table, you have 49 processes. These small notes here, starting from 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, until 13.4. These are like 49 processes. You can think of them as what are the works that you need to do as a project manager, or you need to handle as a project manager. So one example could be, I know, control costs. Well, this is one of the jobs of the project manager, right? Or I know, plan scope management. Again, this is a job of a project. So you can think of it as 59 items that are either project manager's direct job, or these are the tasks that project manager should handle, even if other people are doing it, should handle and should manage in order to manage projects. So here, some people make mistakes, think that these are the works of a project. No, these are not the project works. These are project management work. What is the difference? Let's say the project is, I don't know, making a website. To make a website, building those HTML pages is project work. But this is not the job of project manager. Project manager's job would be estimating the time for these HTML pages to be finished. So we are here talking about project management work and the works that influence the management of the project. These are grouped in 5 groups, which are these project management process groups. Now, initiating, which means defining what we want to do, planning process groups, which is well, making sure we have all of the estimates, all of the works, we know exactly what we are doing, and then managing the execution of the work. Again, this is not doing the project, this is managing other people doing the project, and then monitoring and control, and then closing. So these are like 5 process groups which we have. But going back, you can also notice that there are like 10 knowledge areas. Each knowledge area tells you an area of concern when you're managing the project, an area that you're managing. And again, just to break them down, these are the 10 knowledge areas. And the first one, which is number 4, I will tell you why the first one is number 4. But the first one is project integration management, making sure that all of the project is aligned and working coherently. Project scope management, this is what making sure that we deliver what customers are expecting. Project schedule management, used to call this PMI used to call this time management. It's basically the same thing. Cost management, quality management, human resource management, and other resources management, communication, risk, purchasing and procurement, and stakeholder management. So these are the knowledge areas that project managers should handle. And why I chose this one page to explain in an introductory, because after chapter 3, starting chapter 4 until end of the book, each chapter is talking about one of these knowledge areas. Okay, so all you learn in the core, the essence of what you learn in project management course is how to handle these 10 knowledge areas. And for each of the tasks that you see, for each of those small tasks that you see there, let's say develop project charter, you have something called ITTO, input, tools and techniques and outputs. And usually in each of these processes, you are taking in some information and document. As a project manager, you look at some documents. These are your inputs. You do something with these information. For example, you hold a meeting, or you do some calculations, or you ask an expert, and then you create some other documents, or with the new terminology of PMI, you create new artifacts, let's say the papers or information that you put in the computer, that will help everybody else to know what they're doing every day. So everyone's everyday job comes from the output of these small processes. For example, in this sample process, you're creating project charter. There's another one, you create project time plan or schedule. In the other one, you're creating project budget or project risk register or risk list. So these are what we call ITTOs. Now, what is important for, why do I show you all of these for project management exam? You see these 49? You have to memorize. There's no way that you can remember them if you have not memorized them. You have to memorize all of the names. You have to memorize all of their relation with the process groups and knowledge areas. Some of them might look obvious to you, but under the pressure of exam, it would be difficult to rationalize and remember it. And also, some of the names are so similar to each other that there's no way you can remember. And also, here, all of these inputs, tools and techniques and outputs, you have to memorize. And again, you cannot even refer to what you're doing in your very established company, because every company is doing it differently. And what exam wants to know is that if you know the standard, even if companies are doing it differently. So you have to memorize inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. Okay, so this is kind of like a quick view of the structure of the book. The first 3 chapters are talking about the basics and the principles and the role of project manager, and what are the different methodologies in project management and agile and waterfall and stuff like that. But these chapters are at the core of your exam. And I would say that this is the only page that needs just a little bit of focus on calculations. And as you can see, I'm not going to talk about all of these, but honestly, this is like 80% of the calculations that you need to know. And if I zoom, you would see that these are all plus, minus. You don't have any kind of like those fancy, difficult mathematical calculations. So maybe mid-high school level mathematics would be more than enough for Pmp exam. So don't worry about mathematics too much. Don't worry about calculations. And these are not difficult calculations. You can even figure them out in the exam time. Although I suggest you have enough practice not to think about anything in exam time. Just do it because you don't have that much of time. But as you can see, I just wanted to show you that calculations are not difficult, are not very complicated. There are some other formulas in other pages of the book, but this one page of the book holds most of the calculations that you have to deal with, which is earned value analysis. Okay. Now, how to get ready? Any questions so far? Omid says it's 4 hours. Did I say 2 hours?
Yeah, you said
sorry about
2 hours.
It's 4 hours. It was 4 hours and 200 questions. So you had to make sure that you're answering almost 1 question a minute. So every hour you had to manage. When I was doing my PMP, this is how I managed the time. If I was answering 50 questions an hour, I was okay. So in the first hour, I was a little bit behind. So I kind of rushed, and it was not that difficult to manage the time. I guess I even had like 10 minutes extra at the end of the exam. But yes, I'm sorry, it's 4 hours. Around 4 hours now, they have changed the time a little bit, and around 200 questions. So 50 questions per hour, almost 50 questions per hour.
And I heard because the Farsi is not the language they take the exam, you can ask for more time as a Farsi speaker. Do you know about that?
I have never heard about that, and I don't recommend you rely on that. I will tell you in the next slide what to do. Okay, here. You can try, but this is the first time I'm hearing that. Now, when you want to study, there's so many suggestions what to do. And well, here's another one that worked for me and worked for the people that I know, and they have passed the test. Number 1, study Pmbok. So some people start by studying like Rita or other sources. I don't recommend that. Pmbok is the main reference for the exam. Study that one first, quickly. Then go, because once you finish it, then you start to understand the structure of the book. So first round, very quickly, just read through it. Just read through it. Don't focus. Don't try to learn. Don't try to do anything. Just read the book. Done. Go back, and this time read a little bit more careful. But again, don't waste too much time on it. Just read the book first. 1 round, second round, a little bit more careful. And when it is finished, the second round, go and find whatever book or whatever website. There's so many. I'm not going to promote anyone. Just Rita is too famous, so you already know about it perhaps. But find any book or any website that gives you tests. Okay, so this is the essential element of preparation for exam. Do as many tests as possible. When I was preparing, I did more than 1,100 tests before I go, and it's not that difficult to do that. I'm not bragging. It's something that everybody can do. So make sure you have gone through at least like 1,000 tests. The Rita that I just mentioned has 400, but so I want to say that even that book is not enough, although it's very famous. But after you do this many tests, it's almost impossible to put a new test in front of you that you have not seen at least similar tests before. So some people try to focus on the book and understand the book. That is good. That is important. Especially Pmbok is very important. But what you don't know, you will know when you're doing the test. And that is the better place to learn. Do as many tests as possible before you go to sit for the exam. And yes, of course, there are flashcards. There are some pages like the ones that I showed you that you have to memorize. There are some formula pages that you have to fully understand, but these are easy. And you have to sit for a training anyways. I suggest find a training that is roughly like 40 hours, 35 to 40 hours, which is a part of like the requirement for the exam. And during that class, if that class is good enough, you will learn about each and every chapter. You will learn about the formulas. You should be able to do the calculations and everything. But that's enough. After that, test, test, test. And really doesn't matter this book or that book. Do all of them, whatever you can. Some people would say, hey, I purchased a book. I'm selling it at discount. If the price is reasonable, go ahead. There are some websites that offer sample books. There are some forums that people share the questions, although they shouldn't share the question. Go for it. Search for whatever test you want. You can find. Okay, what are the main requirements for PMP registration? I have a question here. I suggest right the day before you want to register, go online and check. These are clearly explained on PMI website. But just to give you an idea, if you have roughly like maybe 36 months, 3 years of work experience in the project environment, and you have 35 hours of training, that should be good enough. But that changes, and make sure to check online, to check the website. Don't rely on my words today. Even tomorrow, that could be a different requirement online. Go and check online. That is the safest way. It's clearly mentioned on Pmbok. Now, is it Pmbok 6 or 7? It is still Pmbok 6. Pmbok 7 has not officially been released. It's going through the final revisions, as they say. I have seen the book on Amazon. I didn't try to buy it, but I know perhaps it is released somehow. But on the PMI website itself, it says that it is not really released yet. I even checked last night. It was not released yet. So still, it's going to be Pmbok 6 until maybe mid 2021. And yes, as I said, Pmbok is the main reference of the exam. I have not seen any question that is not that it's not related to Pmbok. I have not seen any question like that. Does it need to study? Yes. Okay, let me tell you about my class and any other class and study groups and stuff like that. Classes are good to guide you through the book. Okay, so if you see somebody telling you that come attend my class, you don't have to book and you don't have to read the book anymore, don't waste your money. Classes are there to walk you through the study. They're not there to replace the book. You must study the book. I'm not going to lie to you. It's gonna take time. You have to have at least 2 months of dedicated study time. but not 2 years. Some people study for 2 years and then they're still not. No, no. Register for it. Get some study. Register for the test. Spend like 2 months. Go for it. Don't wait too much. But well, I think 2 months is enough for most of the people. But yes, if you attend my class or any other class, look at it as a guided study line. Also, some of the formulas and details probably could be better explained in class. Yeah, so, for example, if you come to my class, I usually have this. I usually say, okay, every week we are studying 1 chapter, something like this, or with some variations, right? And you need to make sure you're studying that chapter before next week. Otherwise, it wouldn't work because we are doing tests in class. We are doing like sample tests and stuff. If you have not studied, you would not be able to answer them. In class, I will explain, but you have to memorize, right? I cannot memorize it for you. Is it possible to do the exam in French? I don't know, Reza. I know that if you're attending online exams, you can ask questions in English or Japanese for some reason, but I'm not sure about the French. Maybe you have to ask. Okay. Now, there have been some changes in Pmp exam. First change has been done this year is about the new Pmp content. Honestly, I wouldn't take it too seriously. I looked at different sources. I looked up, it looks like the arrangement of the questions have been changed. The focus has been changed. Instead of like process groups, they have changed the focus of the content, not the content that you have to study, the content in the exam. They have changed the focus from process groups to people, process, and business environment. But basically saying the configuration of the questions have changed, not really the questions themselves. This is as far as I can see in different sources that I followed. And you can see the percentage here. So it's a kind of more balance between these 3 criteria. And what do they mean by people, process, and business environment? This other one shows it. I have taken these from internet. So I just want to emphasize that these are not my works. You can find it online. Just search new Pmp on Google. It's going to show you this. So people, process, and business environment. In the people, things like how to manage conflict, team. So these are basically the things that you will learn in the knowledge areas that I just mentioned. Okay. Again, processes, managing budget, time, scope, quality. So these are again things. Knowledge transfer. These are again things that you learn in those 14 knowledge areas. And same with business environment, managing complaints, delivering project benefits. Again, you're learning. So basically, you're reading the same thing, Pmbok 6, but the way that they have organized the questions looks like it has been changed. So they don't want to focus on having a specific percentage of questions coming from initiating, from planning. Instead, they're managing the questions to cover these 3 new criteria more efficiently. So this is one of the changes that has happened this year. The other change is the book itself, which is a huge question everybody's asking. Well, as I said, the exam still is based on Pmbok 6, as far as I know, and they said that mid-May, Pmbok 7 will be released, and then probably should expect the questions shifting to the content coming from Pmbok 7. Again, my guess is that by then there should be announcements. Now, the big big change is that up to here, from the beginning of PMI, as Pmbok, from the first version of Pmbok, the changes have always been like adding one process, changing the name of some of the processes. I know, adding one knowledge area, minor changes, but the same structure. So the perspective that PMI had on project management was the same. They were just adding content and adding, or sometimes changing and adjusting some details. But in Pmbok 7, they have changed the whole structure. They're looking at the project management more as an adaptive tool rather than a prescriptive tool. Before, it was a sort of like predictive process that you knew that these are the processes and you have to follow them in order to successfully finish the process. Now in Pmbok 7, they're more looking at things like what are the principles that we have to follow, instead of saying that what are the processes that we have to follow step by step. Here they say what are the principles and concepts that we have to be aware of, right? So they have changed it, and the good news is this 700 page have been reduced to something around 250 pages. So this is good news. But the bad news is that, well, most of the questions and sample questions and stuff that you have had for Pmbok 6 is probably not so relevant for Pmbok 7. So this is going to be a challenge, because when this one starts, then first of all, we have to figure out the content, and we will not have probably enough question samples in the market. And usually it takes at least like 6 months or up to a year for the companies who are publishing these question banks to update their questions and probably figure out how PMI is expecting to see. But again, it shouldn't really worry you, because if there's any calculation, the calculations formulas wouldn't really change that much. The way that you calculate the time, the techniques, the tools are the same. The only thing is that the focus of the book and the perspective of the way that the book looks at this content have changed. So when you come in here, there are tables like this. Again, I took this from PMI's website. Again, this is showing you how you can compare Pmbok 6 and Pmbok 7. And as you can see, before we had these 10 knowledge areas, and we had like standard and the standard part of the book and the appendix. Now here you see a totally different structure, even though probably the works that project managers do will remain in one of these knowledge areas. The way that it looks at it is different. Look, let's say, for example, we have 12 principles of project management, and here you have knowledge areas. Look at the knowledge areas. You have communication. You have resources, which mainly refers to human resources, right? But here, instead of those, you have teamwork. You see, so instead of telling you how to hire people and how to manage communications and make sure everybody's properly preparing the communication stuff, it tells you the principle of teamwork. So the way that it looks at, or instead of, you see, you have quality here, you also have quality here. But this is more procedural, this is more principle. So it talks more about the principles of quality management rather than the steps that you have to take in managing the project. So there has been some changes like this, but again, if you compare, the names are more or less the same. Just maybe instead of resources and communication, now you have leadership and teamwork. Okay, stakeholders, quality. So don't worry too much about the changes. And probably it's even easier to read 250 pages of book rather than like I know, 700 pages. Well, the thing is, the standard, the content of the standard itself, again, will repeat in this book. The calculations are there. For example, here I showed you ITTOs. Look, here I was showing you inputs, outputs. Now, instead of input and output, especially output, they call it artifacts. So again, artifact refers to sort of outputs that you can have from the processes, but they're kind of like broadening the concept that we would expect from outputs. Okay, so that's it for the first part of today's talk before we go to the next part, which is going to be the supply chain management class that we are offering in collaboration with Sinovate. Is there any other question that I have not answered yet?
Hi, yes, I have a question. I think you touched on the test samples out there. I'm not sure if there is any sample test yet, according to the new test structure. My second question is Agile is going to be part of the new exam? Well,
good question. You see, the traditional way of looking project management is waterfall, right? Many older project managers, especially the ones who are working in construction field or fields similar to construction, they love waterfall, right? But a big change that has happened in Pmbok 6, but mainly Pmbok 7, is that, well, here you're dealing with something called model, methods, and artifacts. And this is a big part of the book, right? So in Pmbok 7, yeah, somebody's drawing stuff here, but well, in Pmbok 7, we have models, methods, and artifacts and tailoring. So instead of focusing on waterfall as the only model that you can follow, as the only methodology, now Pmbok 7 is introducing a number of models and is showing you how to tailor your management style to the requirements of your organization, having these models and methods and methodologies in front of you. So basically, it's not emphasizing on waterfall anymore, and it's taking waterfall as one of the possible models. And agile, of course, agile and something else they call hybrid is a very important part of Pmbok 7. But as for the question samples, yes, you're right, because we have not even had any exam yet based on 7, and I don't think we're gonna have any until mid-2021. So if you're planning to do your test based on 6, do it right away, register today.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really insightful. Thank you.
Sure, Mashka. Okay, any other questions? Very good. Okay, so Darshan, do you want me to start the second part, or you want to say anything before that, or is it just okay? I switch to the next part.
No, thanks, Amirjan. You can go ahead. Okay,
very good. Now this PMP class, Dariush knew that I'm teaching PMP in my university classes, and I used to teach PMP in a couple of other institutes. So he kindly invited me to lead this class for PMP exam preparation. But the other topic that I want to talk about is a collaboration between my company, Artintech, and Sinovate Institute. We are starting to offer a course. It's a very short course. It's like 15 hours, maximum 50. It's a self-paced, and our estimate is it takes between 10 to 15 hours to complete this course. That is already being offered in some of the colleges in Canada, in Toronto, really. And we are doing it with Synovate Institute too, the same way that we are doing it with colleges for college students. But what is it? This is a course that will help you to use Artintech's supply chain management software. And why is it interesting for colleges and for some other people who are trying to get into the job market or trying to work in the job market? You see, one of the biggest concepts that is a very, very huge buzzword these days in the industry environment, especially when we are moving faster and faster towards Industry 4.0, is how we do digital transformation. Okay, and a part of digital transformation is to move away from human-dependent transactions to machine transactions. A big part of it is going to be led by artificial intelligence. But even when you look at the companies around us, I have seen many companies in Toronto, many companies are still using pen and paper to keep their inventory, to keep their, I know, financial transactions. They have an accountant that, I know, keeps record of their invoices and stuff, but their main processes in the workplace are still being done either by, I know, pen and paper or sometimes by Excel. And you can see many employees, maybe some of you even had this struggle, that try to create at least some Excel files that help them to keep track of the things. But if you have done that, you know that that's a big struggle. Now you say, okay, so there are some big ERPs. Why don't they use ERPs? Well, yes, some of them do use those ERPs like SAP, like NetSuite, like Oracle's other systems. But the thing is, not every company can afford to buy those expensive systems. Not every company can spend like $500,000 on ERPs like SAP, right? So what happens is that many smaller companies end up having an inefficient work process. And this is a struggle today in a developed country like Canada, in a developed city like Toronto. If you go to Markham, if you go to Richmond Hill, you go to Vaughan, you can see workshop after workshop, small business after small business, warehouse after warehouse, that they're still struggling managing their information. Now, the solution is using smaller pieces of software or smaller software packages. And that is the minimum effort that they can put to have to join this digital transformation. Now, using digital transformation has several benefits. I don't want to get into the details of that. But the point is being aware of this possibility and not being afraid of that is a big step. And this is what we are trying to create. So in colleges, for example, or in many of the other courses, you learn about the principles of supply chain management. You learn about what is FIFO, what is LIFO, what is the inventory process, what are the inventory processes, what is receiving, what is procurement. But what happens in this course is you get the chance to work with this working software that is already being used in the industry in Canada, and gain hands-on experience, step-by-step hands-on experience working with one of course, our company is not the only company in the market that is offering these kind of like supply chain management software, but all of the other products in the market are more or less similar to this. They're not very different. So once you're familiar and confident working with one of them, that gives you a competitive edge. So you not only don't know the principles of supply chain management, for example, you also have a hands-on experience working with a supply chain management software. And let me walk you through what is it that we are talking about. Let me first share one example of the software configuration. So this is what is called PMP. This is Artintek's supply chain management software. So what you will learn in this course is basically how to work with this software, which covers from the beginning of the process, the things that you need for procurement, receiving. Then after you receive the products, you're putting it in a warehouse. Then sometimes you manage small projects, but more importantly, you work with a sample B2B CRM, and then shipping the products to the customer and getting their signature and moving the product out of your system, and then manager reports, right? And of course, lots of settings that you have here and so on and so forth. But what we do is that there is a program that we have developed. This is the training environment that you will have. In each of these 6 modules, you're learning one of the concepts. And let's say the warehousing, all the modules are more or less the same. So I'm going to walk you through one of them. In one of the modules, you have 2 introductory or case study samples, videos. These are not these are like YouTube videos, not that complicated. But the course itself is here. So you will the content will walk you through all of the modules one by one, with screenshots of each module and what to do in each of the modules and what are the things that you're doing. Let's say purchase orders and how it's configured and stuff like that. And it's not very long, so even this one is a very simple one. Remember, the goal was to make sure that small businesses can benefit from this software. And one of the things that the clients of this PMP are happy about is that they don't need to put their staff under lengthy and expensive training. So this training itself is a very simple one. And after each training, you have a number of like tutorial videos that will show in a video how things are being done, to make sure that on top of the text you have a visual understanding of what's happening, and a quiz. And if you notice here on the top, you have student access to the demo version of the software. So you can actually go there and practice. And even if the class is finished, you still keep your access to the demo version of the software, so we can still go ahead and use it. And there is a small quiz, a very, very simple one, just to make sure that everybody's walking through the process. And then finally, you have a very simple final project that will tell you step by step to do some of the stuff in the demo software and submit your answers. Now, this is the beginning of a journey. After you finish this, you will receive a certificate that is called Artintek's Supply Chain Management System Administrator, SCMCA. And this is going to be a joint certificate from Artintek and Sinovate. And of course, you can put it in your resume to show your employers that you have a certificate of system administrator and you can work with IT and digital systems. That is very comforting because, believe it or not, a large number of the people in the job market are afraid of touching online system. And that was shocking to me myself. But that gives you a good edge. After this, you will also become a part of a bigger community. We call it industrial tech community. In this community, you have access to job posts. You have access to seminars and webinars and networkings. You have access to new events and the content that connects you to the supply chain and operations. So you will be connected to the professionals in the industry, in the manufacturing, in warehousing, the people who are active in these fields. So it's not just this certificate, it's also being a part of a bigger community that will hopefully will help you to have a better understanding of the job market, having access to some of the professionals that are attending those networks and events. So far, we have had 2 events this year, and we are planning for the 3rd one in 2 months from now. So it's a good platform that you can join. The price is very affordable, not very expensive. Dariush, I think, will add it to the training platform of them. And well, the overall thing is that you'll gain a confidence in the concept of digital transformation. That is the main point. And that will give you a competitive edge in the job market. And also you will have an opportunity for tons of networking and seminars and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that course, you can reach out to me or Dariush, and we'll make sure that your registration is properly done. And you can quickly, I think most of the people can finish it in 1 week. And as I said, our expectation is that that is finished between 10 to 15 hours. But then you will be joining the communities. There's a WhatsApp community, there's a LinkedIn community, and a website is being launched soon. And there are other trainings being prepared that this training will be a pre-requirement for those trainings. So it's a sort of like a continuous initiative that we are having. Okay, any questions about this this course, supply chain management course? I see that Mohammed is saying that he's excited to join. If anybody else is interested in this course, again, please reach out to Dariush or reach out to me, and we will be more than happy to put you in touch with the training coordinator, and your registration will be done properly. And we will also add you to the communities that I just talked about. Darshan, do you have any questions, or is there anything else that you want me to explain?
Thanks, Amir. Everything was great. I just wanted to add that I will send an email to the attendees and share the link of the 2 courses, the PMP, post-PMP, and supply chain management later.
Sure. I just noticed that my screen is not shared now. Was it like this the whole time? Did you see that? You didn't see it?
Yes, it was great. We can see you now. But
okay.
We put through the software, so on the browser you showed us.
Okay. Okay, so just to make sure. Okay, so it was shared. That's good. Okay, so very well. That's it for me, Darshan. Floor is yours, and thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Amir. I don't have any questions, so if anybody has any questions, we have time. Still confined. I shared the link of our educational website in the chat box. So I wonder if everybody have a look, visit our website, and give us your feedback about our educational activities. And if you have any question, you can ask now or maybe later.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Omid, go ahead.
Thank you for your great presentation. I have a question for the supply chain. Do we need previous experience in that field?
No. Our assumption when we were, you see, when we started to build this software, one of our clients, they had a big warehouse in Toronto, and they said, Amir, if you're building a software for us, build something that doesn't require too much thinking. And my staff in the warehouse are not necessarily IT educated, so I want to make sure everybody's comfortable. Now, the same thing goes to the training. In the training, our assumption is that people come from very different backgrounds. And we have tried our best to make sure that if somebody has no prior background, even if they can only check their emails, they should also be able to work with this. And we also have a staff that takes care of all of your questions. So at any time, if you have any question about any part of that, you are in touch with her, and you can simply email her. She's gonna walk you through whatever you need. But the training is so simple to follow that, well, I don't think anybody needs any help. In case you need any help, there's somebody to support you throughout the training.
What about job market requirements, even for entry level of this company?
For the job requirements, you see there are different types of jobs, right? But many companies, small and large, are looking for people who can not only do the works in the workplace, but also help them manage their work. You know what I mean? So knowing how to work with some digital systems, especially these days, if you're working with larger companies, all of them are using a sort of like ERP. So if you're in the interview, if they feel that you're not comfortable working with digital systems, they would probably consider other candidates that have kind of like hands-on experience. But of course, there are some other jobs that don't require any like physical work. They need more physical works. But what we see in the job market is that more and more companies, even small, medium companies, are starting to use this digital environment. And especially this year, you see that many companies started to consider like digital transformation as one of their strategies. You know, for example, this year, it was not easy for people to go to the workplace necessarily, right? So many companies started to use cloud-based systems. Prosopax is one example of cloud-based systems to enable their staff to work at least a part of their work, like reporting and then putting orders and stuff like that from their home office, right? So even the people who traditionally used to sit in the office and pick up the phone and make the calls and do stuff like that, and then give the paper reports to their boss, are now required to work with a sort of like online system or cloud-based system. So I can definitely say that having an experience, not just with this system, and if you show that you have experience working with a digital system, it's going to give you a competitive edge in the job market. But of course, I'm not claiming that you cannot find any jobs if you don't have these kind of experiences. I'm just saying that it improves the possibility of you finding a job. Besides, in the community that I just mentioned, we have partners from industry that they keep posting jobs, and those jobs also go to the community members. So again, that is another networking / job hunting opportunity that we try to help our members with.
Okay, thank you. But I really mean if you have experience in other fields and we want to move to supply chain management, is there any chance with doesn't have any experience in supply chain?
Yes, of course. You see, supply chain is a very broad term.
Yeah.
And from it kind of covers everything in a company. As you saw in my screen, let me share it one more time. You can see some of the things that in the first site might not even look like supply chain. You see, from the moment that a material comes to the company, when you're receiving the material, when you're keeping it in the warehouse, when you're selling. So sales usually looks like a marketing job, right? Or shipping, reports. Some of the reports are financial reports. Some of the reports are managerial reports, right? And we are soon we are adding another module that is a bill of material, that is a manufacturing module, right? So what I want to say is that it is really difficult to say that you don't have any experience in the supply chain, because almost whoever works in any company has had a kind of contact with the supply chain area. Now, of course, well, we refer to specific stuff as supply chain, but I'm sure whatever experience you have had before has value when you're transitioning to supply chain. And well, again, not everybody who is in this market have always had experience working in this area, but you compared to somebody who has no work experience nowhere else, definitely you have an edge. You have a competitive advantage.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Guys, when it comes to tailoring your resume and I know applying for jobs, never underestimate your previous job experiences, even if it was not in Canada. Yes, of course, Canadian work experience, Canadian education, these are things that are kind of valued in the job market, but honestly, not as much as it is being emphasized. What the most important thing is that you pick up the keywords in the job posts and find an area of your work that is related to those keywords and tailor your resume for each job with those keywords in mind and considering the valuable works that you have done previously in any company in whatever role that you were doing. Do not underestimate your work experiences. It is still valuable. It is most of the times you find it even relevant to what the employers want. Only you need to find the right terminology to speak the same language. Okay, any other question? Very well. Darshan?
Thanks, Amir. That was a fantastic presentation. If there is no more question, you can wrap it up now.
Thank you very much for having me today, and I'm looking forward to more collaborations.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Same to you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.